editing session, which is often a little bit more than editing and more of bringing in new people and introducing ourselves and talking about what we've encountered during the week in the field of, what is it, Joe? Collaborative no.
Peeragogy? Yeah.
CE.
Collaborative engagement? Oh my God, I can never
Collaborative
remember.
engagement, yeah, something like that.
Experience,
And
maybe.
Experience, yes.
I'll get you the article about it.
A lot has been happening. We're getting ready to publish version 2 of the Peeragogy Handbook on January 1st, which is Public Domain Day. The handbook is in the public domain, and we are celebrating that with the new version and in welcoming a lot of new people into the circle here. So the ever-expanding circle. Okay, I'm going to step down and let Helene introduce herself.
Yes, so I'm Helene Finidori. I have co-founded the Commons Abundance Network and realized last week after talking to you all the team, the Peeragogy team, and reading the handbook that we were doing Peeragogy in our project, which is actually learning and co-learning about the commons. In a network that is trying to bring together a network of projects in an environment where people can learn, work together, showcase their projects, and collaborate to expand and create overlaps and cross-pollination between projects. And one of these projects that we're working with Joe is to on the Meta Commons, and is has the aim of trying to see how we can define the commons in such ways that every change agent from the position in which he is placed can see how his activity relates to the commons and see how all these ways of protecting, nurturing, defending, sanctuarizing the commons in all their dimensions can come together for the defense of the commons as a whole. Voila.
Wow.
Great. There is one person on your network that is working with the FLOK Society project, right?
Yeah, that's Wolfgang, isn't it? Yes, he's working with Janice.
Janice, yeah, that's it. That's the name.
Yeah. Yes, because they wanted to use the structure and the taxonomy at some point of the wiki, the knowledge base that we're having there to for the FLOK project. I don't know where they're at, but they were in discussion for that. Mm-hmm. Because and the other... Sorry?
No, sorry. Continue, please.
Yeah, I was saying that the other educational dimension is that the knowledge base that is being built around needs, resources, and organizational forms and processes for greater abundance, let's say, or for sustainability, equity, etc., is created as a pedagogical project by Wolfgang and a certain number of other professors with students. So it's a kind of several layers of education and learning there.
Do you know Antonio Lafuente from Spain? Because he works a lot of well, he has a network also, but in Spanish.
No, I don't know him. I haven't been in Spain for very long, and I don't speak Spanish, so I'm a bit half integrated, I must admit.
Okay.
Who's up? Maybe who else is new? John is completely new.
I'm completely new, yes.
Tell us about yourself a little bit.
Pardon me?
Tell us about yourself a little bit, please.
Yeah, I'm a sociologist, and I worked in applied settings for about 10 years, and then the last 8 years I've been teaching full-time as a community college sociologist. I'm interested in educating people, obviously, about sociology, but also about how to learn, how to develop skill sets that will be useful to them, increase awareness just about social factors, social issues, locally and globally. Also, I participate. I'm the associate editor of a applied sociology journal, and always interested in figuring out ways or learning new ways to create different types of social interventions to improve living conditions or social conditions or the general human condition for most people. And just recently became involved with Google Plus. Actually, basically, I got a Chromebook a couple weeks ago and became fascinated with everything it had to offer. And found this community, found your community, because I'm trying to redesign my classes so they're more kind of a flipped class. That goes back to me wanting to teach my students about different social issues, but also to help them develop a certain set of skills to be able to allow them to be more successful and to affect different types of positive change. And I just thought it looked pretty cool, so I thought I'd check it out, and Charlotte invited me to the Hangout.
Great. Great to have you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, sounds like you and Paola should talk at some point. Well, even now. You both do similar things. I mean,
okay.
I don't know. Jan, are you also a teacher? You teach, right?
Yes, I do. At the college level here in the States.
So we got 3 college level teaching people in this one thing, and Howard is really the kind of guru figure for probably everyone here. And he's done a lot of stuff. I don't know if you've watched any of his videos.
I have not.
He's a really good resource for that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, but everyone else here is also a good resource. And, one of my hopes would be that I think, as I mentioned, I would love someday for somebody, it could be any of you guys, take that Peeragogy handbook and use it as a textbook for your class, during which I can imagine the entire book would be taken apart and reconfigured into something completely different. I would find that exciting, but I'm not a teacher. I work at a university, but in a research capacity, so I don't get to do that kind of thing. Pretty cool experiment.
Sounds good.
Let's see.
I was very excited to discover the Abundance Commons network. Helene, that's blowing my mind, and I'm looking at ways of trying to integrate it to the work that I'm doing with the Peeragogy group.
Okay.
So yeah, I've sort of been going, oh my goodness, this is so brilliant, but how do I? It's just like such a big thing you're trying to do. So I'm just trying to think of ways of integrating this work, because I think a lot of us are going in the same way, but separately, and we need to just keep trying to bring it together.
It could be an idea to have Wolfgang, because you're talking about the knowledge base there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the whole, or do you want to participate in some of the projects that we have launched there?
Well, I'm definitely still just browsing and lurking, but I do hope to participate in some capacity.
Yeah, because there's also so Wolfgang is a teacher of geography, and so part of his classes he has his students writing pages and trying to connect the various problematics And there's also a sociology teacher, actually, at Truman University, working on that too. So that could be also John and Paula, and I don't know, interesting in this respect.
Do you know the name of the sociologist?
Yes, could it be Ellen Duft or something like that? I don't know it by heart.
You said she was at Truman University?
Truman, yes, I can look the name up. It's not very far. I know Wolfgang mentioned it several times.
Okay. I can look it up. That's okay.
I think it's Ellen Duft. She's in the members, so let me look if I find her.
Joe, you're the big synthesizer, and I was just wondering if you had a particular take on how the peeragogy would dovetail with the Commons Abundance Network.
Wow. Well, so I think my first thing would be I think we should all formally invite Hélène to write a chapter for our handbook, but on what topic? And I think maybe we can leave that open for a while, because I don't think there's any chance of getting it done by the end of the year.
No.
But we could get it done for the next version. And I think maybe some of what we're doing. I do have an idea about that, by the way. Thanks for letting me blather. But I think Charlie has this great thing. You know, we're kind of trying to figure out what are we doing for next year. What is 2014 about? And I think this is. Hi, Dorothea. This is going to be important for. Yeah. Okay. So just a second. I'll say this thing about Charlie's, and I wrote a thing called the Peeragogy Accelerator. Help build the Peeragogy Accelerator.
Yes, definitely. I'd like to work on this type of stuff. I've been reading what you've been doing with Charlie, and it's really interesting. So yeah, that would be an interesting direction.
I think something like that. This link there is my best guess, my current best guess about what I want 2014 to be like for this entire project. And I think it could be, you know, we've got a good version of the book. We can keep working on it. Like I said, we could invite some teacher to take it with their students and remix the whole thing and rewrite it completely. But while that's happening, I think we can kind of unite around this project, which is related to the FLOK project, related to the CAN project, related to what Dorothea is doing. You know, so I think we're all doing similar versions of this same thing, and yeah, I think Hélène could be a really experienced figure for putting together a different project, even more so than me. So that's my hope. But yeah, maybe Dorothea and Paula, Charlotte is saying, please introduce yourselves.
Well, hi, I'm Paola. I work at the university in Mexico City. I'm from Ecuador. And now I'm very interested in collaborating with the FLOK project in Ecuador. So I'm traveling tonight to Ecuador, and hopefully I will meet Michelle Bowens and maybe Daniel Araya if he's there. And I would like to, as John said, try to help with anything and try to articulate these networks that have a common goal, I think, because I'm very interested in open knowledge, open science, the commons, and and I wish we could have. Well, Daniel's here. I see.
Yes.
Great.
Hi, how are you guys? I'm so sorry I'm late. I just got back to the office 5 minutes ago.
So I was just telling that we want to collaborate with the FLOK project. I was just telling that I'm going to travel tonight to Ecuador. So.
Oh, great, terrific. Have you been to Ecuador before?
I'm Ecuadorian.
Oh, are you? Okay. Well, then yes.
I forgot to say that.
Yeah, so I've been in Ecuador for 2 weeks, 3 weeks almost.
Oh, okay. You are not. Okay. I thought you were.
I'm Canadian and I don't speak Spanish, so it's
Could we have, excuse me, could we have Daniel introduce himself and whether he knows how to do the lower thirds or not? We'd love to have that.
Yeah, if you're a Google Plus Maestro, you can click on this Hangout toolbox, and while you're introducing yourself, you can get stuff to appear. But otherwise, yeah, just introduce yourself, and we can lower third you for the next meeting.
All right, I don't know what that means, but yeah,
Basically,
so
just hold up a card saying who you are. That's why we got these little names down below. But
Oh,
don't worry about it; it's not that big of a deal.
yeah. So yeah, so my name is Daniel Araya. I'm from Canada originally. I just finished a PhD from the University of Illinois in public policy and education. I'm working as of the last 3 weeks with the FLOK team here in Ecuador in relationship with the government. Sorry, it popped up. I don't know what that was. I don't use Google Hangout much, so I have to apologize. I don't know what this stuff does, or you know what I mean. I usually use Skype if I do anything at all. Yeah. So yeah, my background is mostly in education policy, but I'm acting as the I guess you could say assistant research coordinator for the project. There's about 7 of us working on it. We just released a letter recently indicating that the work we're doing. I don't know if any of you have seen it or you're interested in it. We're actively seeking people to collaborate with us on the work we're trying to do, which, you know, to put it simply, is to try to build a kind of blueprint for building a commons-based, value-driven economy and society. So in a sense, it's a non-market-driven innovation system that facilitates multiple streams in economic and social development. And this is all coordinated by the government, Senaseed, which is a department in the government that's looking at alternatives to market-driven economic growth.
Yeah.
Wow.
So sorry, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the public policy side and the government side and some of the background on this project sometime. But really, just to say, yeah, I wanted to invite you in because I think we're trying to do that. All the different people here are very loosely collaborating around this project of the Peeragogy project, but we do come together once a week to kind of try to talk about what we're doing in regard to the education and human potential stuff, which I saw you were kind of part of the head of that along with Paul Bouchard.
That's right, yeah. He's a Canadian, a professor at Concordia who's coming in January.
Cool.
So I'm wearing 2 hats at the moment. So I'm doing human capabilities. That's the title for the stream. I'm doing that until he gets here, and then I'm more full-time assistant research coordinator.
Yeah, so basically I'm hoping that we'll find some ways that we can help you. I think one of the things is Paula is gearing up to translate the book into Spanish, which won't be helpful for you personally, but it may be helpful for other people in Ecuador.
It's very embarrassing not to speak Spanish in Ecuador. It's a difficult experience. I don't know what's going on around me. I can't use the ATMs very effectively. I have to learn as quickly as possible. You know?
Yeah, you'll pick it up.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So Dorothea, thanks. Nice to see you again.
So should I introduce myself?
If you could.
Yeah. So I'm doing a lot of stuff. So I don't know. I don't want to talk about everything, but I came like to co-learning thing. I came from open science environment because I'm a researcher, and I've been studying how researchers can actually collaborate with each other more efficiently, and how they can create projects together. Because in science, it's also very projects are developed in secret. It's kind of like in the market.
Right.
So you have to sell to get the grants and to get to make it possible for projects to develop. They actually need to work not so collaboratively as they could. So and then I sort of started to develop also models for collaborations, not just in science, and in general, how people can collaborate without all these market rules, how they can value-driven collaboration. Yes, so that's basically.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. That's what we're trying to do, more or less. Yeah. Maybe you guys could tell me more about Peeragogy as well. I mean, I'm familiar. I know Joe through a project, edited volume we did 2 years ago. I guess it was a special issue for a journal. But that's the theme of this hangout, is it, generally, or Peeragogy?
So the thing was kind of like the precursor to this project. I think basically that was right around the time that Howard was discovering it and making it popular and making the handbook. So Charlie and I had written a couple papers, and Howard took the thing and said, okay, let's make it into a project, not just some papers. Yeah, there you go. That you get this real book like that, and you can buy it for not that expensive, or you can get it for free online, and read it online, or get a PDF and read that on your device, whatever that might be. Hey, Ray. And yeah, basically Ray reminds me we've been doing things like this, things sort of like this open learning kind of stuff for decades, many of us, But the Peeragogy project is really trying to make a handbook, which Paula just showed you, that makes it clear how anyone could do it. So John is a sociologist working in a community college. How can he use peer learning in his classroom? And if the handbook doesn't show how, then we've dropped the ball and we need to work on it again. So it's an open project about open learning, free open learning and collaboration and this kind of stuff. So it's not all academics. Some academics, some baristas, some self-employed, some different people from different strands of life, all kind of interested in this topic. So what else can we say?
But to simplify, it's peer-driven communities that are collaborating in their learning process. Are there mentors or teachers involved, or is this something like bottom-up, local learners kind of thing, working together? Or how does
I think the answer is always both, or like and. So like some of us are teachers who are interested in as teachers, and how can we apply it in our classrooms. Some are not teachers, like me. I'm not a teacher, but I'm interested in building a learning community, which is very open, ground-up, grassroots kind of thing, including the development, hopefully, very open source based. So a lot of the inspiration is coming from open source software and things that just already work in this space without teachers. But it's not that we're opposed to teachers, it's just that was some of the original inspiration, saying, how does it work? It works very well, so how can we use those ideas?
Yeah. I mean, if you, I don't know if you've seen the research streams. I could probably give you a brief overview if you want that. But for stream 1, which is human capabilities, we're still wrestling with exactly how to apply that as a national plan. So it's one thing to experiment with peer learning. It's another thing if you think about the institutions, the formal institutions that already exist in a given country or given community like Ecuador, like Quito, or the surrounding cities. And so to explore through a policy-driven plan, how would you build peer learning into the formal institutional systems, or would you do it as a complement, sort of outside the formal institutions, or is there some other third model that you would, that's sort of the area we really could appreciate some contribution if you guys are interested in doing that.
Yeah, so there's a video as well. I just watched this, a long one, an hour and a half. But Howard Reingold's in conversation with this Anya Kainomits. I don't know her name properly, but anyway, they're talking about exactly this question: do universities even help, or are we just getting in the way?
Right.
I don't have a ruling, but yeah, maybe we can all of us can consult with you about that, and you can get a nice crowdsourced opinion. I'll link up the video in just a second. So, yeah, cool.
Yeah, we are not working for institutions, and I think that one of the strengths of the project is that it's thought for helping people in any kind of community, activists, common people, any community, so any learning community. So I think that we could help in that sense, because of course some of us are teachers, but some others are whatever you want. We have even businessmen, right? Jay Cross was a businessman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only for formal environments.
But if you were thinking about policy advocacy, I mean, here's where the rubber hits the road, right? It's like, now, what do you, if you had the ear of a president, as we seem to at the moment, what would you suggest to support development on the one side, so like a commons-driven society, and at the same time, maintain your role as a kind of educator for the masses, for a national economic development as well, whether it's market-based or commons-based. I mean, I think what we're trying to do is sort of fit inside their larger trajectory, but do so in an intelligent way and in a very brief way. Because so each stream has roughly 20 pages in the final report. The report's no more than 140 pages. Those 20 pages then are embedded in a larger sort of data-driven analysis that non-scholars can explore if they choose. But for the most part, what we're trying to do is build a narrative around commons, common social and economic development, with human capabilities as kind of like a specialized component, a necessary and important component. And we're trying to, within a brief space, encourage discussions around peer-to-peer, around collaboration, around mutualism, co-production, those a sort of litany of stuff, and then incorporate, curriculum development around sustainability and around sort of post-intellectual property issues, the rights of citizens, civic development. There's so much that we have to squeeze into this little space that it's a bit challenging. And what we're trying to do with human capabilities is, use it as a means to really broaden access to commons-based society, right? So it's got to do a lot of different things, and it's difficult to do it in a small space. But we're trying to be as targeted and smart about it as possible.
If I could just say, to reiterate kind of what I said in the chat window, I think using this kind of network, you're going to be very effective, even with relatively small amounts of time and money and investment. So you're not going to say to the Ecuador, go build us a giant university and we'll figure it all out. Once you build all the lab infrastructure and stuff, you're saying, no, maybe we need a few laptops, and right. And we're going to talk to some people around the world. Maybe they have universities at their disposal. I do. It's all right around here, And maybe we can do something as a network. And I think that if you work on those two levels, you're going to be very successful, especially when you're talking to a bunch of other people who are already thinking in the same way and who can feed back useful ideas and opportunities and resources. Did I say resources? Okay, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so just to explore, collaboration down the road, because here's the deal. So we have roughly 3.5 months to pull this off. We're trying to we have specialists, researchers working on each individual stream, and my role when this is further down the road is to try to integrate it in such a way that it's a coherent narrative, right? So that it makes sense, that the pieces fit together, they don't seem like distributed in a confused way, fragmented. So, as we begin to build content, and as our reports will be published to wikis, and we're actually planning to publish for the Journal of Peer Production, and perhaps even an edited volume down the road. We're exploring that as well. But as we move down that road, what we're trying to do is open up the process of planning to the commons communities around us as well. So it's not some kind of like specialist think tank thing. What it is a collaborative project that's open source for an open source world, with open source policies by people who are willing to contribute ideas and collaborate, and everyone will be recognized. The names will be recognized in the process. So they'll get legitimate credibility for what they've done. But the premise is just how can we as a community build around civic engagement from the bottom up that incorporates new networks, new distributed systems that isn't necessarily technologically based. We have a kind of wrestling match within the researchers themselves. Some are very pro-technology like myself, others are not. They're much more political economy focused, arguing for democratization, access to resources, sharing of content, sharing of knowledge. So there's a lot going on in a short period of time with very little space to get it done with. So anyone, especially a community like yours, be willing to contribute. Like we could send you briefs that we're doing, and you can critique and say this is garbage, or within the 25 pages you have, add 3 pages on this, or whatever it might be. But we definitely would enjoy your support and collaboration.
Yeah, I think you've definitely got it. You've definitely got it. I think Yeah, well, it'd be very interesting to see whatever you guys have, the outlines of those 25 pages, or just some of the sub questions.
Sure,
like,
sure.
you know, for example, about science. You know, you could do an entire 25-page report about science, and Dorothea and I could expound upon our opinions about that, and so could a bunch of other people. In fact, they already have lots of stuff. You know, as the Science Commons branch of the Creative
Right.
Commons project for some years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what you said about where the rubber hits the road is very interesting, because projects like Science Commons have existed without necessarily having either really a global scope or even a national scope within a thing. It's more like they fostered a few example projects, and so we've got a few example projects. That's good, but I think you guys are trying something at another scale, which
Yeah,
is
and
ambitious.
it's both scale and it's impact, right? Like, so these I don't know if you know the leadership in Ecuador, but they're very left-leaning, they're very ambitious, and they seem quite smart to me. I mean, as an outsider just looking in, I'm pretty impressed with what they're trying to do. And I think that you know, contributing intelligently to what they're doing is kind of tricky. Whoa. What's all the flashing? You know, is that me?
That is Charlotte that takes pictures.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry, I like to have. It really is nice to have a record. You know.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
of
Yeah.
people in action.
I just don't know what's going on, and I'm in such a confused state with not speaking Spanish. I mean, even going to lunch is a challenge, you know. Like, I had to go back to the bank and reset my key to my banking card because I couldn't figure out the interface of the ATM, and I locked up my card, and it's just wow. I wish I spoke Spanish.
Well, you're brave.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but well, ambitious. You know, I really like this project, and if you know Michel Bowen's work, he's a good friend and colleague. I mean, you know, he's come a long way from, you know, a simple set of ideas. I remember 7 years ago I was doing my master's and I read a paper on, you know, the next Buddha will be distributed or something like that, like a peer-to-peer spirituality. To go from that to where we are today, it's, you know, quite a leap in intellectual gymnastics and ideas, and, you know, building relationships with different communities around the world, open source cooperatives. I mean, we're really knitting together different communities in such a way that it could be quite productive. And so I'm excited about that part. But I lost my train of thought. I have no idea what we're talking about now.
You did. So, can I unmute and just say, pulling Jan's comment, he's made it a couple times. Maybe you want to say it in your own words, though, about technology, telecenter. What are you saying there?
Well, I'm just aware of the telecenter movement globally, and it's already a network that's in place. It obviously has connectivity, and I know that there's been a lot of work in South America in that way, and I was just curious if Daniel had any knowledge of that in Ecuador.
Yeah, not so much. Yeah, I can't speak to that. I mean, in fact, we should set up another Google Hangout with the whole team and have we'd have a richer discussion. Some people are better specialized in, for example, I don't know if you're familiar with Red Clara, which is the supercomputing network in Latin America. We're trying to set up a Skype call with them next week or the week after to explore. You know, the supercomputing resources already exist for universities in Latin America. And we're trying to figure out a way we can integrate that with a larger plan of, you know, open science and open data analysis, and perhaps big data as well as another dimension. Stream 5 of the project is focused strictly on IT. Jenny, who's from Ecuador, Jenny Torres, she could probably speak at length on that. But the point is, we're trying to figure out a way we can both integrate it within the established infrastructure that exists already, and then advocate for ways to leverage that technology for peer-to-peer practices. Because one of the problems with supercomputing, and I just did an informal survey with some friends that work in supercomputing. I was saying, how many peer-to-peer projects in supercomputing can you think of? And it was like maybe 2. You know, the truth is, using big data generally is specialized for governments or for multinationals or for maybe some NGOs, but for the most part, they're not democratic engines of democracy per se. So the premise is to democratize access to resources, and that's in a sense our mandate, but to do it in a way that leverages democratic collaboration, but also technology and the pieces that put together within the affordances of technologies, networks, or socially mediated institutions and technologies.
Well, I think the sustainability curriculum is really a good place to start, because it offers a way to integrate sort of hands-on, practical, you know, how do we feed, clothe, employ ourselves, and that leads to using the technology rather than the other way around.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a mixture of the two. I mean, I'd say there's 5 main researchers, 1 per stream, 2 sort of administrators, I guess you could say. And within the group, I'd say, it's almost split half and half based on what we think the problem is with development, in a sense, as a practice, and also social and economic growth as a process. So I think, for me, I think leveraging technology is so critical. I think it's really the way to go. For someone like Michelle, they would say it's secondary. It's really not the primary issue. Political economy is far more relevant to how we develop a democratic society. So we're on both sides of that, and we're debating that all the time. But for example, IP issues, some believe that IP still has value. Problem. We need to eliminate IP so that people can begin to innovate. So we're debating those issues ourselves.
Well, I think it's going to be important, because I know a friend of mine through planetmath.org, which is a website I've been involved with for some time, is now in law school and specifically working not just in IP but around that area. And you should talk with him. So this is Aaron Crown, who knows a ton about free open source software, development of knowledge commons, and he's becoming a lawyer. Also, Doug Breitbart is in this project, who is a lawyer. I don't think he's an IP lawyer, but and another guy who's not here and neither is a lawyer or whatever, but he's interested in this kind of stuff. So there's already a sort of interest group, and I can connect you with some more people who are thinking a lot about this. I think I can, if this was a blog, we could definitely get you some interesting guest bloggers for building up your archive of information there. So
yeah, I mean, we plan on distributing the report as it moves along with each stream. Whatever content is most ready for distribution will be made available, and so it'll be wiki-based. But if you want, I'm trying to at the same time I'm trying to develop a single document that builds the content in a kind of readable fashion, even though it's in the basic stage. So I can share that with you, and if you want to see the whole project from stream 1 through stream 5, you can see it in that form, and you can, as it's growing, you can contribute ideas or whatever. So like I said, although we have a small amount of space, so keep that in mind, nonetheless, we definitely are very much open to contributions from people.
I mean, another thing we could definitely do is we can maintain a little stream within our project, so you can already kind of feed things to you,
yes, somewhat
pre-curated or pre-digested a little bit. Sounds reasonable. Yeah.
You were saying that it would be really cool to get someone to go through the Google Plus and a social media classroom for things that we've already have already been kind of chewed on, and there's a lot of stuff that it kind of goes into the stream, but we could retrieve and connect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let me just say one last thing. So Paul, who's coming from Canada, I think January 7th or something like that, right after New Year's sometime, he'll be taking over formally responsibility for human capabilities, which is in a sense the learning/education stream. And so we'll definitely have to have another hangout call with him on board, and you can speak with him about his ideas. I mean, I have my own approach. Paul's not here full time yet, so he may change some of my thinking. But we definitely would like to, and like I said, I mean, the tricky part is with so few pages, it's like how much can you really do, But framing an argument intelligently, at least, is the best we can do with it.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the chat, so I'm getting all distracted. But I think I saw that Paul's PhD thesis or something was about andragogy.
Yes. Right.
So he may be interested in peeragogy if we politely say, well, hey, maybe we're the next generation of something you're already an expert on, rather than strictly a revolution, we're kind of the next iteration, next edition. So it would be interesting to see if he agrees or disagrees with that claim right there. That I think that could shape a little bit about how and whether we work with him. He may not agree, but still want to work with us, for example. So
I'm sure he will. Yeah.
But we did kind of start by saying, basically we started by saying, the assumptions of andragogy just on a theoretical basis, the typical assumptions just don't apply in open source software or on Wikimedia or whatever. You don't have an educator. So
Right.
it's not that we're against educators, just we're looking at the spaces where you don't have one. So what do you do in that case? We love them, but you know, we don't have any. Right? So what do we do? Anyway, so I thought that was interesting.
We need a new term, don't we? We need a, like, to learning or something. But one of the coolest things we had, I've experienced on Peeragogy is kind of this mass hive of people descending on a document and just doing great things with it, you know, really fun. And we've been able to do that book that way. You know, sometimes we'll just put up a chapter and we'll all be chewing at it and, you know, moving things around and kind of good-naturedly fighting with each other. But something has come, something really coherent has come out of it, and it's just, it's almost amazingly magical.
Yeah, it's emergent, right? It's self-organizing, and that's the thing is, you know, how do you take, you know, say the formal education system? Like here, there's so many layers to the problems that I see in terms of dealing with, say, developing countries, not even Ecuador per se, but other developing countries. You know, you want a strong formal education system because you want to build basic literacy, and you want to be able to have citizens engage in a democracy and also provide a livelihood for themselves. And then at the same time, you have this rise of a kind of knowledge, a network knowledge economy or knowledge society that seems to have very different logics that, you know, is really rooted in co-production, mutualism, reciprocity, is more peer-to-peer, is much, in some respects, more like a kind of, like in ideal terms, the academy. I mean, the academy is not always peer-to-peer for sure, but in the sense that it's a democratizing force of both how you learn, how you produce, and potentially how you produce value in you know, market terms or even non-market terms. So the question is, what does learning look like in a network-mediated knowledge age? So that's one question. Then another is, how does it sustain development for emerging economies? And then maybe a third is something like, how does it leverage new technology so that it's evolving too, so that it never becomes static, you know, in terms of how it views itself, I guess.
You're a good typist, Joe.
I might. You hear me. You hear me typing. Sorry. I wish it would just mute. Yeah. So I've been talking with this Joss guy in England a little bit by email. I've never met him in person. I should. But he educated me in the Marxist idea of value, and then I educated him back in the Jean Baudrillard notion of value. So he's this post-Marxist guy who's basically saying the typical discourse of Marxism is all completely passé, and, you know, just like the Matrix, things have become so overblown that political economy and Marxism is really impossible to work. Well, but that may not be true in Ecuador. It may be different in Ecuador. I don't know. But I always come at it without a very theoretical background and just kind of a naive, intuitional background, wondering, why do people do what they do? For example, why are all of us, whether we're teachers or not, doing this, you know, for free? We're doing it for free, not necessarily because we want to use it in our classroom. Some of us might, or in our day job. Some of us might. I have a good excuse, and everyone else seems to have found their own good excuse. So we're getting something out of it.
Right.
And what I've said to Charlotte and other people, like when we're thinking about the future of the project, is like, yeah, we can give the book away, we can sell it, whatever. That's not that interesting. What's more interesting is finding people who want to participate in building it, because those are the ones who will get something out of it. Whether they pay $12 to get a copy and read it or not, you know, get a free copy. Actually, that's inconsequential. What's more interesting is whether they're doing something actively engaged in the process. And maybe that's dialectical somehow. I don't know, but it's, you know, it's fun. It's also fun. So that's
I'm sure there'd be some Marxists who would tell you, yes, that's dialectical. We got that covered already too.
Okay, good. I figured it might have already been sorted out a few hundred years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think as we're thinking about that, one really, really simple thing that does relate. See you, Jan. One thing that I'm thinking about is just a basic platform issue, and I think this would be relevant to your project as well. Is like, what platform should we use moving forward? Should we stick everything on a wiki? Right now we have a WordPress site. So one thing we could definitely do, and Ellen, you're using WordPress, right, for the CAN? That's WordPress currently. So but maybe one thing we could simply do is just try to find a nice common infrastructure that we could use and you could use for your different streams. Right, and maybe we could be sort of a shadow stream, like the 6th stream or something, and contribute things to people using the same platform. And this is just a thinking aloud because we have to figure out what we're doing for the next year to keep the project alive and keep people participating and grow it and have more impact as well. So we don't have the answers to that, but I think it sounds like you're considering similar questions because you don't have a lot of time, so you're already thinking about the legacy for afterwards.
Yeah, there's no time for ego on this project because there's no time. So we can't really say we control everything, so we don't have time for that. I mean,
if you want to open a group and work on the Commons Abundance Network, it's there to be used. I suggested that we could open a Peeragogy group to hold conversations and discuss and pursue the conversation. I don't know if you have an environment to work in.
Yeah, well, sort of. We have a wiki we're using that is for the whole FLOK community, and for the documentation, we're really just we have the wiki first of all for publication, I guess you could say, for public consumption. But then we're just using a Google Doc to coordinate. So the Google Doc is sort of internal, where we can just write together, and then once we have something that is plausibly ready for publication, then we publish. And like I said, this is really at a very nascent stage. We just heard as of yesterday that the government wants us to give them a brief, like 2 pages per stream this week, which is all of a sudden. So this week we're probably going to be working on that, and then we're still wrestling even with how to constrain all of the different sort of a commons society or a commons universe, because there's so much you could put into it, and we're coming at it from different directions. Some are open source people, some come from the cooperative community, some are talking about peer-to-peer in a more sort of abstract sense or kind of utopian sense. There's a lot of different angles, and at the same time we know what our goal is, which is to create planning and policy for the government. So the other side of it is that we need a kind of rich conversation with the government itself so that we know what they want from us. And so we're not just coming at it like outsiders with a utopian dream, and saying, do it this way, this is going to work. Instead, I think we're trying to find a negotiated middle where we have certain value-driven ideas that we want to contribute and we understand what their needs are. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. I mean, next week we could be somewhere hopefully further down the road. And why I kind of hesitant to say, let's just work together from go is that we don't really have a lot of content to give you yet. So I think once we have more written, we'll send it your way, and then we'll have another Google Hangout if you guys are available, and I'll have everyone, certainly the education people and anyone who wants to come will be here, and then we can sort of engage the floor and have sort of a back and forth discussion on. Because once we have something to critique, I'm sure everyone will have opinions, and then we'll be able to have a richer conversation about what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and the other thing is, okay, go ahead. The other thing is we have this giant book which would be, if someone has time and wants to cut it down, Paula is going to go to Ecuador, so she could hand a physical copy of the book to somebody to read, or just get the PDF, and someone could just go for 20 minutes and find the things that actually look interesting. That would be very, very helpful feedback. I think we sent a copy to Michelle a while ago, and he said, yeah, it looks really great, but I just don't have time to read it. So he's probably not the guy to do this job. But
if you can send me the link to the PDF, I'll have a look at it, and I'll send it to Paul as well.
Yeah.
Paul is in the middle of, I think it's Christmas holidays and dissertation defenses at the moment, but
it's not a rush. Yeah. Well, I don't know if that links to the latest PDF. So I'll send you a link to the latest PDF shortly. Do you remember your comment, Charlotte? Sorry, it sounds like you need attention. Charlotte's been under bed rest for a while, so she's going completely stir crazy. Hence all the photos.
God,
in
it's
case
horrible.
that wasn't.
Not
in case
exactly
that wasn't
bed rest, so I can't put any weight on one foot. But
okay.
I've kind of noticed this thread of the venue where the discussions take place, all the way back to Howard, and I mean, we have Google Plus, and I realize there's limitations to everything. I mean, maybe Elaine can tell us, or me, if everyone else gets it, what, you know, there's just so many different places to conduct a discussion, from Wikipedia or wikis to Google Plus to email to, you know, what are the actual like 5 top advantages to using your format?
Well, actually, it's not a thread thing. The problem of Facebook and Google Plus, etc., is that you have posts, and then things branch out into discussions and conversations, and you can't get anything to consolidate. I mean, it's not a work environment, it's a social environment. So what we try to put together is a space where people can, you know, keep their documents, manage their projects, have forums or discussions, or create documents together. But it's like pulling the stuff that they need in one place rather than disseminating the things in several places. It's more of a big type of content management system with places where you can have discussions than anything else. I mean, it's just there.
We had this wiki. I mean, what is that thing that social media?
Social media classroom.
Classroom.
It's an open platform.
Is that a similar thing? I mean, I didn't find it easy to use at all.
I find that wikis are very difficult to use, but now people think that WordPress environments or group environments are difficult to use also. I mean, there's always a learning curve for every type of tool that you're using. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear, you know, like a.
Well, we could create a group on there. We get started using it. If we love it, then we'll use it more, and if we don't love it, then we won't use it so much. You know. So we should probably do that.
It also you have to be mindful and just make an effort to
exactly
go there. Yeah.
Well, for example, we're testing the environment for the Peer-to-Peer Foundation blog because they wanted to develop it on WordPress, so it's there, and they're trying to see how they can use it also as a work environment for around topics. So. It could be, you know, a bit experimental for all of us, especially if we come to work a bit more together.
Do you think we could use Hangouts in you know, is there a way to link those in so that the Hangout is then linked to?
I think we could. It's almost like a mini site where you can pull together different things. We're trying also to see if we can install things like Big Blue Button, where you can, you know, share, create almost webinars and things like that.
Yeah, talked about working with that too.
Yeah, I mean it's in construction, so.
No, Paula's leaving.
Yeah.
I think you have to.
Yeah,
ciao,
sorry,
ciao.
I have a meeting now, but
yeah, I have to go as well.
Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon, Danielle, or talk to you, and see how can we collaborate with the project.
Does anyone have the chat? Charlotte, were you on the whole time, or did you leave? Because I also had to leave partway, so I don't have the whole chat.
I think I have the whole chat. I'll capture it. Is there a way to get the chat after you close the
No,
no,
you lose it.
That's the huge limitation of Google Hangouts in comparison with Skype.
Well, let's gang up on Google and just tell them to do that, because I mean they do respond sometimes.
Not to me. Maybe someone else. Okay. Anyway, I've got a lot of chat. Maybe we can get Howard to do it.
Yeah, I know. I have a whole bunch.
Yeah. Sorry. I should have asked John.
I have a meeting too, and I think I'm like 9 minutes late, so I better go.
Uh-oh. Well, thanks for coming into this.
We'll set up another hangout, okay, and we'll converse again.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
See you.
Thanks.
Joe, you want to
Bye.
close us out?
Thank you. Bye.
Close us out.
Don't have a lot to say, but okay. Thanks. It was a big project. Oh, well, the other thing to say yeah, for anyone who's still listening, is that we are supposed to finish this version of the book in like less than 15 days. So we've got new material. Editors can please converge on the site. Helen, I can make you I can make you and Dorothea logons on there if you haven't already.
But one thing, I'm going to end the the live
recording
part.
Yeah. Okay.
And wait.
One last photo. Okay.